You know, I think there's every police department in the country says they embrace community-oriented policing, but when you drill down, it's very difficult. And even though everyone says they have community-oriented policing, in practice, it's very difficult. So I applaud you for your efforts, and I think that's the direction that the city needs to be moving. At least that's what we're hearing from the residents. They want to get to know those officers and not think monolithically that all police officers are the same. They get to know you as individuals, which I think is excellent. So, so what did you do after you headed up the community-oriented policing unit? What was your career path after that?
After community policing, I went back to the patrol division, and I worked the midnight shift as a shift lieutenant. And I did that for, I think, about 1.5 years. And then I was transferred to the day shift, and I was the administrative lieutenant for the captain of patrol. After that, I was transferred to internal affairs. And we used to call it the dark side of policing. And I think it's important for anyone who strives to further their career in terms of being a lieutenant or a captain or even a chief of police to understand the importance of investigating complaints and misconduct, because you have to have the trust of the community. And it's not always that an officer has done something wrong. Many times the officer has done things correctly, but it needs to be investigated. It needs to be explained to the public or the complainant, and it also serves as vindication for an officer if he has done something correctly.
I know that our internal affairs processes lots of complaints, but what is most important is the perception in the community that anyone can file a complaint and that it will be thoroughly investigated. It may result in a sustained charge or an unfounded charge, but I think what is so important and what we're hearing in the community is they have to feel confident that any complaint at least is fairly looked at, and that's what I think is all they ask for, is that they get a fair shake, and that it not be dismissed, that it be at least looked at, and then if it isn't a violation, then everybody is exonerated, but at least they have to know that that complaint will be taken. And I know the police panel has been looking at issues to try to make that easier for people to file, or record keeping or reviews, and we're looking forward to reviewing those recommendations soon too, and seeing how best practices are done in other cities.
It's very important to put the right personnel in internal affairs. First of all, you have to put an individual in there that is respected within the organization. And secondly, he has to also be respected by the community in which he serves. They have to have a trust in him. He has to be able to articulate what he did and how he did it. And so when the complainant leaves, they feel like my complaint has been thoroughly investigated, and I trust that organization.
Well, that's good. I know our current commander of internal affairs, Lieutenant John LeBlanc, probably fits that bill very well. He's very well respected in the community and inside the organization.
Yes, he is.
I applaud the efforts that you're doing. So how long were you in internal affairs, and what did you do after that?
I was in internal affairs twice.
Okay.
Yeah, I did one stint for about maybe a year. And then Chief Lewis asked me to go back into internal affairs because we were having some issues with the trust issue. And so I did internal affairs at the same time as I ran support services division that I currently run now. Okay. So I did double duty.
Okay.
And I stayed there, I would imagine, for about 1.5 years. And then Chief Lewis assigned me to the patrol division, and that is where I managed the patrol division, and I did that for 3.5 years.
Now, is that as a captain?
As a captain.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay. I did that for 3.5 years.
Now, when were you promoted to captain, approximately?
1997.
Okay, so you've been a captain
1997.
for about 13 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. And as I said, I managed the patrol division for 3.5 years. Very challenging, but rewarding. There is never a day that goes by where you don't have issues. But we had then, and we still do have, very, very fine, outstanding men and women in our patrol division. Currently, I am very proud of the young men and women that we have, especially on the midnight shift, because they are young enough to have been recruited and hired by me. Okay. So I know that we are very thorough, that we try and hire the best young people that we can, and I feel very, very comfortable with them, and I'm proud of them. That's
great. I want to echo your comments, too. I think we have a fine police force. So there's a lot of very, very dedicated men and women. And unfortunately, they get judged in their totality by the actions of aberrations. When an officer does the wrong thing, unfortunately, it paints the entire department. And I certainly don't think of the entire department as being in the same camp of those that have abused their power. And I think we have a few that have deviated from the standards, but by and large, we have a good organization, and with the proper leadership, I think we can do many, many things. And I think, Chief, you're being a little bit modest when you told us about your promotions from sergeant to lieutenant and captain. And I want the public to know that the Chief has really been a trailblazer. I think I understand that you were the first African-American police officer to be promoted to the ranks of sergeant, lieutenant, and captain.
Yes, sir.
And now Chief. So I applaud you, and you're being a little bit modest, but it hasn't always been easy in society today to aspire to those high ranks, and I know you're a true role model, so congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I want to talk a little bit about the future and try to get a sense of what your vision is for leading the police department. What's your vision for the future?
Well, we really, really want to impress upon our young men and women that policing, as they know it and as we know it, is not easy. But we really want to empower them to have the ability to go out and earn the trust of the community. I want them to be accountable for the things that go on in their zones. I want them to know as many people as they possibly can on a first-name basis, the people that are in those zones. I want them to know Miss Helen, who might be an elderly female who lives by herself. I want them to take the time between calls to go and stop by her residence and to talk to her. I want them to know the teenagers that live in those zones on a first-hand basis. I want them to know even the homeless people who live in those areas, because if we have crime in those areas, it's our responsibility to solve it and to protect the people there. And you can only do that by talking to people, gathering information, and going out and doing something about it. And if the community doesn't trust you, they won't talk to you. And so I want that to start with me, and I want it to go down to the patrol officers, because they're the ones out there who really do the work and really make the sacrifices. And so I want them to understand that they're the ones who really, really make the difference. They may not always make a friend every day, but what I require them to do is to earn the respect and trust of the community. And if they do things the right way from their heart, and they treat everyone as they would want to be treated, then we've gone or come a long, long way. And we may realize, and I heard this today, we may realize that we serve the community, but we may not always act like it. We want to always act like it, and that's where we're going to start. I want to bring in individuals to help train us in the philosophy of community policing, and I have, I do believe, found an outside person who is going to be a fantastic trainer for us. And at some point in time, I will contact him. I talked to him earlier this week. So I will contact him and see if he can come down and help us out.
Great. Any staff changes that you foresee? I know we have some management vacancies. Tell us how you want to deal with those in the interim.
Yes, sir. Today, I made some changes. Lieutenant Carr will now, Jeffrey Carr will now become the interim Support Services Division Commander.
He will be promoted to acting captain.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, Captain Paul Sutton, who is now in charge of criminal investigations, will become my administrative captain, and he will be in charge of special projects, our public information officer. He will be putting together our promotional process that we are about to kick off. So he will have quite a few administrative
Probably
duties.
helping you move into the new building too, huh?
Helping move into the new building. Yes, sir. We're quite excited about that new building. And also, Wade McVeigh, who is our lieutenant in narcotics, will now become the interim commander, captain in charge of criminal investigations. And we'll have a few more at a later date. Good.
Sounds like you got a good team.
I have a fantastic team.
That's great. That's great. You mentioned your philosophy. How are you gonna get it implemented? How do you take that idea and actually instill it in actually get it done?
Well, the first thing you have to do, as I said earlier, is you have to train your people, and you have to let them know what it is you expect and how you want it implemented. The next thing is that your sergeants and your lieutenants and your captains all have to be on the same page. And then you have to hold your people accountable. Now you say, how does a chief do that? Well, my philosophy is this. I don't really care about numbers. What I care about is quality. I know that our officers have to go out and they have to give their supervisors a good 8. But I want to make sure that the citizens are being treated correctly. If a person has to go to jail, I have confidence in my people that they will take that person to jail. If they have to write a traffic citation, I have confidence that my people will write that traffic citation. But I want it to be done in a professional manner. And I want it to be done in a way that leaves the citizen with respect for that officer. Now, how do we do that? Well, one of the ways is that I use that administrative captain to do a lot of administrative duties so that I can get out and I can talk to people. I can get out and I can ride with my patrolman. And when I get out of the car, I can just stand back and watch and see how they relate to people. One of the good things about being raised in a community is that everybody or a lot of people know you, both black and white. And you would be surprised at the number of people that will come up to me and say, you know, Officer so-and-so, he's a good officer. But Officer so-and-so needs to improve in this area. Or that officer, you might really want to watch him. And so those are the things that benefit me. And when they have the trust in me to come up to me and tell me that, then I know they're telling me the truth.
Well, I know you've said it before, Chief, that we can't do it alone.
We can't do it alone.
It's got to be a partnership between the public and the police force.
That's right.
We need each other.
That's right.
The police department needs community support, and the community needs a first-class police department. So,
well, not to cut you off, Mr. Bartolotta, but I will give you an example of this. One night while I was the shift lieutenant, we faced a large crowd. And when I got there, 2 of my officers were surrounded by a crowd of probably 50 or 30 people. And I actually had people in that crowd come to the defense of these 2 officers and say, you will leave them alone.
That's great.
They're good people.
That's great. Thank you so much for coming in today, Chief.
Thank you.
We look forward to your success, and this has been an issue of City Focus.